Hey guys, hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. My name is Aaron and today I have prepared a lesson for you in connection with history. It's going to be a hybrid lesson because we're going to listen to a text about the American Civil War. I chose that because I like history. And second, we're going to be practicing grammar, past simple, asking and answering questions, nothing new, just good old practice. So in the description box down below, you will find a file, a link, a downloadable one, which will contain the glossary and the script and the questions. So full lesson, it will help you. I recommend downloading it. So you're going to hear a text about the American Civil War, as I said. Listen carefully. This is going to be an intermediate lesson, so don't freak out. This is not going to be very difficult. But instead of it being a chronological approach, telling you step by step when and what happened, it's going to be a causal analysis. It's going to be rather focusing on the causes and the effects of the American Civil War, why it happened and what results it had. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned. We are starting. Let's listen. The American Civil War. The American Civil War was fought over 150 years ago. It began in 1861 and lasted until 1865. The battles of the American Civil War resulted in the death of 620,000 Americans. What caused this terrible civil war between the North and the South? Well, historians believe that there were many causes of the war. One of the important causes of the war was the friction between the North and the South over the issue of slavery. The Southern way of life and the Southern economy were based on the use of slave labor. For almost 250 years before the Civil War, the economy of the South depended on the use of black slaves. The slaves were used to plant and pick cotton and tobacco. Cotton and tobacco were the main crops grown in the South. Most Southerners did not think it was wrong to own, buy, or sell slaves, like farm animals. Slavery was, in fact, the foundation of the entire economy and the way of life in the South. This was not the situation in the North. The Northern economy did not depend on the use of slave labor. Why not? Well, in the South, there were many large cotton plantations that used hundreds of slaves. In the North, however, there were smaller farms. Northern farmers planted many different kinds of crops, not just cotton and tobacco. The Northerners did not need slaves, since their farms were smaller than most of the Southern plantations. In fact, many Northerners were so opposed to slavery that they wanted to end slavery completely. The Northern attitude against slavery made the Southerners angry. So for many years before the war, there was constant friction between the North and the South over this issue. This issue eventually led to war. There was other friction too, as I said before, between the North and the South. There were, in other words, other causes of conflict between the North and the South. One involved the growth of industry in the North. While the South remained an agricultural area, the North became more and more industrialized. As industry increased in the North, it brought more people and greater wealth to the northern states. As a result, many Southerners began to fear Northern political and economic domination. Because of this fear, many Southerners believed that the South should leave the Union and that they should form their own country. In 1860, the Southerners decided it was time to leave the Union when Abraham Lincoln became President of the United States. Lincoln, as you may know, was against slavery. The people of the South were afraid that their way of life and their economic system were in danger with Lincoln in the presidency. Consequently, the Southern states decided to secede from the Union. In other words, they wanted to break away from the North and form a separate country. In 1861, South Carolina seceded, and by June of 1861, 11 Southern states had seceded and established a new country. They called the new country the Confederate States of America. The war between the North and the South began when the Southern states seceded from the Union. The main reason that the North went to war against the South was to bring the Southern states back into the Union. In other words, the North went to war to keep the United States one country. After 4 years of terrible fighting, the North won the war against the South and the United States remained one country. The North won the war mainly because of its economic and industrial strength and power. The Civil War had two important results for the United States. Number one, the Civil War preserved the United States as one country. And number two, it ended slavery in the United States. Many Americans wonder what the United States would be like today if the South had won the Civil War. The history of the United States would have been very different if the South had won the war between the states. Alright, here comes the comprehension check. Let's see how much you understood from the text. For questions 1 to 10, you will hear multiple choice questions about the information. Listen to each question and decide whether A, B, C, or D is the best answer to the question. How long did the American Civil War last? The American Civil War lasted for 4 years. What was one cause of the American Civil War? One cause of the American Civil War was the issue of slavery. Describe the economy of the South at the time of the Civil War. The economy in the South was based on cotton and tobacco and dependent on slave labor. Both A and B are true. How was the economy of the North different from the economy of the South before the war? The North had smaller farms, grew a variety of crops, and did not use slave labor. How did the growth of industry change the North? The growth of industry in the North resulted in increased population and money. Why did the South decide to leave the Union and form its own country? The South was afraid of Northern political and economic domination. What was the name of the country formed by the Southern states? The Confederate States of America. What was the most important reason that the North went to war with the South? The North went to war in order to keep the United States one country. Why did the North win the war? The North had greater industrial power and wealth. What did the Civil War accomplish? It abolished slavery in the United States. Okay, comprehension, second part. You will hear 10 statements about the American Civil War. If the statement is true, then say true. If the statement is false, say false. If the truth cannot be determined from the information in the talk, then say not given. The American Civil War started in 1861. True. The American Civil War ended over 150 years ago. True. There were many large cotton plantations in the North before the war. False. There were many large cotton plantations in the South. The use of slaves in the South began around the time of the American Civil War. False. For almost 250 years before the Civil War, the economy of the South depended on the use of slaves. Most Southerners felt that it was all right to own, buy, and sell slaves. True. Most slaves were unhappy and wanted President Lincoln to free them. Not given. Most Northerners wanted to use slaves to work on their small farms. False. The Northerners did not need slaves on their small farms. The only reason for the American Civil War was the issue of slavery. False. There were other causes of the conflict between the North and the South. For example, the growth of industry in the North. The North had better soldiers and generals than the South did. Not given. The American Civil War was over in a few months. False. The war lasted from 1861 to 1865. Okay, let me tell you some interesting facts about the American Civil War. In the 3 days of the battle at Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, 51,116 men lost their lives. It's also known that 3,000 horses were killed at Gettysburg. Did you know that during the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, the only civilian to die was 20-year-old Mary Virginia Wade, who was shot through the heart while making bread? It is known that 3,500 Native Americans fought for the North, or the Union. 1/3, or 1,018 of these Native Americans lost their lives. Did you know that when a woman mourned for a husband who died in the 1860s, she spent a minimum of 2.5 years in mourning? That meant little or no social activities, no parties, no outings, no visitors, and the wardrobe that consisted of nothing but black. However, the husband, when mourning for his wife who died, spent only 3 months in a black suit. Did you know that during the Civil War, including the times before and after, it was legal and socially acceptable for a man to beat his wife, provided that the instrument used in the beating was no thicker than his thumb? Thus we get the term rule of thumb. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being with me and learning with me. I hope you were able to pick up a couple of new words and practice these sentences. And by the way, you probably know more about the American Civil War as well. So if you don't want to miss out any other episodes in the future, please make sure that you click on the like button and the subscribe button. And until next time, see you. Bye.